Hello and welcome back to another episode of Have Game Will Travel. I'm your host, Bennett Newsom, also known as Dammit Bennett out in the gaming community. But as the Director of Esports Growth and Development here at Full Sail University, super passionate about exploring the diverse world of esports and gaming beyond just skill level. So whether you're a first-time listener or a returning fan, we're thrilled to have you join us through this virtual journey through the experiences of industry professionals. So get ready to engage with our guests and learn from their perspectives. Remember, you can ask some questions in chat and we'll get them featured on the show. But sit back, enjoy the ride as we kick off another episode of Have Game Will Travel with my guest, Paul Munday. Dude, welcome to the show. How is it going, man?
It's good. It's good. It's been, good Lord, how long has it been since we've caught up properly? I think it.
We hung out at TwitchCon a little bit this year, so that was nice. But I don't know if that was like a proper catch up. So it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
It probably would have been the last time I was over at Armada, actually.
Yeah, at the Fortress for sure.
At the Fortress, I think that was the year with the Bolts. I think
Bolts Gaming, I think, was probably the last time.
No, Rays.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. That was, I think, the Rays was the last thing we did.
Rays was the last time. Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. Well, first off, thank you for being here. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell the people what you do, and we'll kick it off.
So, hi guys, I'm Paul. Everybody affectionately calls me Mondays, mostly because my last name is Munday, so I kind of leaned into the whole thing. And I currently work as a talent manager at Mythic Talent, representing some of the biggest streamers in gaming. And then on the other side of things, I have my own company that I have called Weekend Ventures that has done content strategy, content execution, and production for companies for almost about 5 years now.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, there's a lot to cover here. I think we've got a lot of students that are super interested in that pathway from a career standpoint. But I think it's important to kind of understand where you started, where you've been, how that journey has gone. So talk to me a little bit about when gaming first became part of your life.
Oh Lord, if we're gonna go that far back, my family was pretty relaxed on gaming growing up. We didn't have a lot of big stuff. That said, my dad does work in aerospace. Okay. So he considers himself more of a geek than a nerd, which means we had all the tech in the house, but not necessarily all of the games. So, we'd be fiddling around with computers and stuff like that and specifically audio stuff as well, because he was an audio technician doing stuff in college way back, good Lord, Virginia Tech in the late 70s, early 80s, something like that. And so a lot of tech in the house, but not as much gaming up until, we had the classic Game Boys. My grandmother didn't like Pokemon, so we didn't have Pokemon in the house. So I skipped that whole thing until I was in my teenage years. But a lot of early classics that are more akin to like Doom. I don't know if you've ever played Descent. If you remember Descent back when they made those, that was like one of the first sci-fi space ship shooters. It was Doom, but with little like new age ships. Okay. Dude, that was so much fun. A lot of flight sim, Microsoft Flight Sim specifically. It was really where it started, because my dad, again, aerospace engineering, his job actually was to build the simulators to feel like the actual real aircraft. And so he spent a lot of time playing with the real thing. And so we'd get a lot of the stuff out of these early, like, the World War II ones, and then into Ace Combat and stuff like that. And then as I grew older into those, later middle school to high school years, it was a lot of sports stuff. I was playing a lot of Madden. A lot of, oh my goodness, what was it? Backyard football and baseball. Oh, good Lord, my brain's forgetting the baseball guy. Who was it? Carlos Puyol? No, Puyol is soccer. Alex. Good Lord. Anyway, Alex Rodriguez, monster in backyard baseball, all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah,
playing sports. And then from there, I inadvertently got a laptop for school, and so I started PC gaming. And that's really when I started playing both the Maddens properly on PC, but I also got into MOBAs. I was early on to the Dota train, way early on. I'm still a Valve fanboy to this day. Deadlock's doing great. But throughout middle school, late middle school into high school, I played a lot of Dota. I think by the time I was 18 and maybe 3 years in, I had about 3,200 hours just in Dota. I was playing just by the time I graduated high school, I was playing around with the top 10 to 30K NA. So a lot of crazy stuff back in the day. Played all of my friends were immortal, if you know the
That's
rank.
awesome. Yeah, that's crazy.
But that's really what I played the most of at that time. It was a lot of Dota and some card games here and there.
Yeah.
Madden every 2-3 weeks on release, like every single time. It's the same thing with COD and everybody
Right.
else. We did play shooters in the house, but not really often because we didn't get an Xbox. So most of that time was spent when we'd go over to friends' houses and we'd all play through, the Halo campaigns or multiplayer and some COD multiplayer back, Modern Warfare 2. And then I think the first time I really played through, Halo in the shooters was when I got my own 360 into the Xbox One and I was playing through Reach. And then
Yeah.
that's when I got Destiny.
Destiny
Was
changed it
Destiny.
all, right? So many people.
Destiny
dude.
changed it all. I joined End of Taken King, early Rise of Iron.
Okay.
Which realistically, from what I've been told, because I didn't experience the previous parts, was kind of the golden age, which I would
for
have to
sure.
agree with. And so from there, it was falling in love with what I love from MOBAs, which is kind of like the complex strategy MMO type thing. I wasn't really a big WoW guy. I never got into the big MMORPG thing just because I hate tab targeting. And so I ended up getting into Destiny from there, played the shooter side of it, loved the gunplay. And that's when I started looking for ways to hang out realistically with people who were doing other things in the game. That was the community building aspect back then. You finally had people getting off the forums and Reddit and going, hey, like Twitch is a thing.
Twitch is a thing, yeah.
I think I can actually tell you the first person I followed on Twitch doing Taken King, Crota, Oryx carries, and it was Shifty5.
Yeah, Shifty, yeah, dude.
It was when Shifty was doing it with a couple other names I won't mention for reasons of them not being around anymore in specific things, because good lord, that was a whole time. I don't want to get too much into that. But that was really the first intro to Twitch and the gaming community at en masse was that. And so from there, I just fell in love with it. Was doing trials, was doing raids, and then started hanging out on Twitch in a couple of different places. Grenadier Jake.
Yeah.
Good lord, let me think. Bams, he's still around, but he's in Tarkov now. Gathalion, Broman, K Magic, and the Rare Drop crew, who I would eventually go to work for.
Yeah.
But did that for, oh my goodness, that would have been end of 2018 into 2019, and then 2019 to 2022 was me streaming myself.
Yeah. Okay. So it was like entry point.
No. My brain just flipped numbers again. Good lord.
You skipped. You time traveled.
I went college and high school. I flipped my numbers. So that would have been 2015.
Okay.
My numbers are all off when I try and think about college and high school. The gaps are ridiculous.
So would you say
graduated 2019?
Would you say that Destiny was the catalyst to the content space for you?
Absolutely, without a question. Because that's when I started streaming myself.
Yeah.
And so I was doing trial stuff and just PvP hangout. I was never really excessively good, mind you. Like I was good. I was a little above average, but I wasn't,
You could hold your own,
yeah. Nothing like a bunch of the friends like I mentioned, like Creator Jake to this day still picks up a No Land Beyond and it's literally like top 3, top 4 people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just ridiculous. So I never had that skill on the sticks. But as Destiny 1 went into Destiny 2, I was playing a little bit more. But around then was also the time, if I'm remembering my timelines right, that's about when I was graduating too. And I think it was 2018 when I made my first, back in the day, and you remember this. Yep. SweatCon was 2017.
SweatCon.
2016,
you know, right?
Yeah. So I missed that one. But then I got to go to the next one. And then just had a great time. It was at the fairgrounds down here in Tampa.
Yep, the official Destiny Con now.
The official
GCX, but GCX. A lot of name changes in the early days there.
Three of them.
Yeah, three of them.
Three of them. And just give some people some context on what happened with SweatCon, because not everybody's going to know about that story. Yeah. Basically, Gathalion, Broman, K Magic, and their crew wanted to have a hangout session. Broman at the time was living up in St. Louis still, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And Kevin and Goth were down here already. And so they said, we just kind of like put a call out to our community to come hang out with us at a bar one day. random day in the
At an
middle of the
ale
summer.
house, dude.
At an ale house, Miller's Ale House, and I can tell you which ale house it
Yeah.
was, which is the funniest part. And turned into international plane rides for a bunch of people,
Yeah,
and a
dude.
couple hundred people showing up to a Miller's at like 7 o'clock in the evening on a weekend.
Families are trying to eat their food, and there's just you think a line of
There's
people out the
literally a
door.
line of people, the whole circle thing. They had to shut down the parking lot. It was a whole thing. I didn't make that one, but I know all the stories. And so that's what happened with the Destiny community.
Yeah.
From there, the next year, Ben and everybody decided that they want to do some good with it. So they, reached out to a bunch of different places, picked a charity of their choice, picked St. Jude, and kind of
Yeah.
the rest is history from there. I don't want to get too much into that story just because that's a little bit more of a global story.
Yeah.
But what happened with me was I showed up year 2 and had a blast, made a bunch of friends, met all the friends that I already did have at the time. At the very, very end, ended up being with a good friend and kind of casually volunteering, actually inadvertently getting directed by George from Leviathan Core.
Yep.
Is the first person I met because he was there early days volunteering for stuff, and did that. And at the very end was like, man, I'm gonna have to do this again next year. So next year I actually signed up to volunteer, and that was 2018. And so had a whole little time, did my whole thing, volunteered. And then the craziest thing was I was like, man, this is a great time, a great
Yeah.
community. I'm walking by Kevin. I'm like, hey, like you should really like this is super cool. Like I'd love to learn how to do this. And keep in mind, Kevin's just come off running a 2-day massive event,
Yeah.
hundreds of $1,000 for charity and stuff like that. And the casual answer was like, well, like shoot me your resume.
Yeah.
Literally that simple. Now, granted, he'd known me. It's not like I was a nobody. I'd been in his chat, hung out.
Yeah.
There's a whole crew around there. I was still living in Virginia, finishing up my degree at the time. And so I waited 2 or 3 weeks. He was like, wait till everything calms down. The funnest part of that entire memory was getting sent a chair. Because at the end of events, if you don't know this,
Yep.
stick around sometimes. Because usually they have to get rid of excess inventory that they can't ship back.
Yep.
You get some really wild things for free.
Yeah.
In my case, it was a DX Racer that I had to
Yep.
fit in my Toyota Corolla and drive all the way back to Virginia because I drove down. So that ended up happening in January. Ended up, chatting with them, and they found out that I was graduating in the fall. And so instead of it being an internship, it turned into a full-time job right out of school.
That's
And
awesome.
so drove down right after graduated in May, took 2 months. My family has a great tradition of doing road trips. So we road tripped out to the Grand Canyon, hiked the Grand Canyon, and came back, got in my car, and drove down for my first full-time job. Up until that point, all I'd done was pizza delivery.
Okay.
And some associated, work around the town doing construction work with my dad.
Right.
So it's not like I had an extensive job history prior to that. So, but I graduated with it from Regent University in 2019 with a degree in business with a concentration in marketing.
Okay. Cool.
So what I came down to start at Rare Drop doing was basically social media management, and then some event planning and management that I'd be learning from Kevin. And that quickly spiraled into, well, you're also a streamer, so you kind of know what you're doing with all the tech side of things. So that ended up with me transitioning a little bit out of social media and more into full breadth content production. So I was responsible for setting up OBS, making the graphics, doing all this stuff. I'd had a lot of time, to the point of not really having much job experience. But my whole family being very creative in that way is I had years of design work in Photoshop and After Effects and stuff like that. In college, I was doing film scores for students and doing graphic design packages for friends. So I had a full creative suite of just personal hobbies that I built into running social media and then doing the content production. So over the next, good Lord, what would it have been 3.5, almost 4 years, I went from doing just social media all the way up to basically being a full producer, running multiple shows, YouTube channels, running the main event. And then the last 2 years, I was in charge of both main stage and side stage for production at the event for GCX, or Guardian Con into GCX.
And that was when it was in Tampa.
Correct. That was at the Rosen. No, that was
at
the Rosen.
when it came finally to Orlando.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I had it from the Rosen the last 2 years that I was there, which would have been 23 and 20 pseudo 24.
Okay.
No.
So if we
Yeah.
rewind a little bit,
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about like realizing in this moment, you're streaming, you're making your own content, but these new opportunities are presenting themselves in front
Yeah.
of you, right? Like
Yeah.
when did that happen from that switch of being like I'm interested in building content and supporting creators more than like being on camera, being the
Yeah.
person on the screen.
I think it's kind of twofold, and I'm gonna say something first that I think everybody needs to hear that you and I have heard for years from Corey, but I think it's very, 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 very true. Luck is like 80% of the game here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's right place, right time, and capitalizing on it. It's
Yep.
not a very predictable industry, let's say. And so happening to know the right people at
Yep.
the right time as they were building a company, I was the second employee number two, um, doing charity work for St. Jude and building content. Um, Coming in with no real job experience and being a content creator. So I inadvertently, to that point, got in ground floor early days before you needed job history in this to get a job in this.
Right, right.
Um, and so I would just want to put that caveat out there of I'm one of the few early exceptions to the rule of you kind of have to be in it already to do the thing. And so I say that um, to go into the perspective of it was very much just a flip of the switch. I don't think there was a lot of thought into it. I'm not really that kind of person. I tend to see the thing, go, nope, that's the thing,
Yep.
and if my gut tells me it's right, I just do it. There's no second guessing or questioning. It was, oh,
Committed to the
congratulations, you're gonna have
decision,
to move
right?
to Florida.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna be away from everybody. You've graduated. What are you gonna do next? The answer is, well, I didn't know. So the first opportunity that presented itself to
Right.
me that happened to be in something I was very already like passionate in
Yeah.
was just a definitive yes.
Okay, cool, yeah.
Um,
I
Now I
like
didn't
that.
stop streaming. Right. I didn't stop
Right, you
streaming.
still kind of had made
Right.
content throughout that time, right?
So for the first year or so, I was streaming. Then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing that made that whole transition super weird was, I moved down 2019 and COVID was early to mid 2020. So you're doing your thing, you're about a year into the job, you're kind of getting your feet underneath you, and then everybody's at home.
Yep.
Um, and so I'm a social butterfly.
Yeah.
I am give me all of the people, give me all of the energy, I thrive. And so not having that for a bit was very, very jarring. And I think changed a lot of people personality wise, myself included.
Yeah.
So if you feel that, don't feel bad about that. If you're like, hey, I used to feel like I could do this and now I can't do that because I don't feel at home in that anymore, that's okay. Don't
Yeah.
don't judge yourself for that one. But to that point, it was then a lot of like rehoning in on the talents and the hobbies and the streaming and the stuff that I was already getting good at before that I just was like, oh, we're head down in a job. I'm still working from home. We were all work from home. We all lived 30, 40 minutes from each other, if that. Nobody was in the office until we could start going back into the office collectively again and doing content from the office. And so a lot of it was, well, how do I get good at remote stuff?
Right.
Like it was just a necessity at some level of like getting good at things that you already kind of were good at, into making it something that you can kind of produce and pursue as a career. Just to kind of give some additional context to that, when we did that, we were all kind of sitting around waiting for things to happen, but so were the big companies. They couldn't do a lot of their live shows.
Right.
And so Kevin had pitched it. We had an in-house production team. I'd already been doing remote stuff, from like, somebody's at home and I'm at the studio. Bing, bada boom.
Right.
Um, and so it went from that to, hey, the Maxis Sims team needs to do their broadcasts from home. We were already starting to do that, but you already have all the technology to run it from home now, like on your own PC, on your
Yeah.
stuff. And so what you transitioned into doing that for massive, massive company things. I was running the EA broadcast for The Sims for a little while. We had the St. Jude stuff for the marathon
Yep.
already, which was already a fully remote production. We had stuff for other charities that were in the space. I'm not going to get too much into some of the detail because I don't necessarily know what I'm like allowed to talk about for some of those pieces and names. But We did a lot of really cool projects just because it ended up being that I was one of the earlier people on, especially in the charity space, to get a hold of remote broadcast and
Yeah.
production with a high level of quality. We had a
But
great in-house design team and stuff like that that helped a
yeah.
lot. But in general, it was like, hey, set up OBS, run this stuff, run the production end of it, um, and help people get the word out about whatever they were doing and whatever was going on at the time.
Yeah, and for you, kind of as I don't want to be like, oh, you were an outsider, but you're this is a new space to
Yeah,
you, and working with these large companies like EA and Bungie,
yeah,
um, those are like large scale partnerships. You know, those are huge deals. What did
yeah.
that in those early days for you? What did that like teach you about how this industry functions, and like what were some of those things that, I mean, obviously we're it's COVID, so it's a little bit of a
Yeah.
different shell, but like what did you learn during that?
Let's do the good, bad, and the ugly.
Okay.
Um, the good, bad, and the ugly. The good, you can kind of do anything.
Yeah.
Just straight up pick your thing. If you want to get good at it, run the thing. And generally, if you have a good idea, as if it's actually a good idea, people listen. That's the one weird benefit of a lot of these bigger companies when you're doing production things for stuff like that is they like the creative think tank, especially if you're doing it at cost for yourself and they don't have to pay anything extra.
Right.
Let yourself dream a little bit with a lot of those pieces because you can contribute in ways that they're not going to necessarily be able to do because they don't know what you have.
Right.
So if you're making content already and you get approached by a brand to do something and they're like, hey, here's the baseline of what we want, feel free to go above and beyond. It's not going to hurt them as long as you get
Right.
approval at some and it's not controversial. Go above and beyond. You're not only broadening your skill set, but you're broadening what the exposure they should get from it should it be good should happen. So they generally don't mind. Um, the bad, good lord, dude, we are we are Hollywood on steroids.
Yeah.
We've been Hollywood on steroids. Nobody, it didn't really happen until Ninja, got as big as he did.
Yeah.
But there's some ego things that you have to really pay attention to. But I think the biggest thing is that, and this is the Hollywood side of it, is like shit takes forever sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you can have a great idea in January, and that you're not seeing that until October.
Right.
It just
And that's kind
it's
of
like that.
fast, honestly.
Exactly, right?
Like-
Um, and so speed kills, but also speed matters.
yeah.
So the faster you can do it, the better. And the real ugly part is, man, consistency and how do I say this? Consistency and loyalty are hard to find.
Yeah.
Um, when you find your friends that are just friends and that are not, doing the Hollywood thing, keep those people. Period.
Mhm.
Definitively, without question.
Yeah.
Um, and trust people when they show you who they are. And I think that really applies regardless of industry. But at the same time, you can trace that also back to the good in a
Yeah.
way. And that's why I wanted to end with that and bring it back to the good, which is, and the people that you find that are good people will take you with them. One of the biggest pieces that I tell people that are either in the industry and are trying to figure out what they're trying to do or where they're trying to go is find good people and just give.
Yep.
Because the more that you give and the more that you give unselfishly with no expectation of return, almost every single person that wins in this industry just does that.
Yep.
They don't care. Like, you're not worried about getting something today, tomorrow, 2 weeks from now, whenever. As long as you're giving of the things that you have without remorse,
Yeah.
you can kind of really not care
Yep.
because the rising tide lifts all ships, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, good things come back because they trust that you were doing it altruistically and they're not worried about you trying to get something back from them in return.
And most
It's
people in this
really,
space can
oh man,
spot like somebody that's like
everybody has bullshit meters
yeah, like
way up here.
they
Uh,
know
it-
when you're like trying to get something out of them, and that
yes,
just it's not a good feeling. And I think
no,
for a lot of creators, they eventually it hits them and they're like,
yeah,
oh, that's what that feels like. I
yeah,
definitely did that before. I should not do this, and
yeah,
that like that realization happens, and you're like, oh, this that sucks, because
yeah,
you have to understand that, and like you said, bringing things to the table and just being like, let the joy of me sharing this with you be
yeah.
the reward of that, right?
Well, and to emphasize that point, There are also times where it is entirely businessly transactional, and as long as you are upfront about it, nobody cares.
Yep.
Like if you're like, hey guys, like I'm doing this project, it's for my promotion. Like, I know I don't know any of y'all. Like, I'm not trying to sit here and be buddy buddy. Like, you guys are cool people that I thought would be cool to be involved in this project, and that's it. But most of the time, they're like, oh, like if I can do
Cool.
it, I can do it. If I
Yeah.
can't, that's fine. Like, and nobody's upset by it. People are upset when you kind of like weasel and scheme and then figure out, what
Hmm.
you're doing later, and they're like, what do you mean you didn't actually care?
Right.
And to be fair, I think a lot of that came into a lot of my history for the work simply because we're doing a lot of charity stuff.
Yeah.
Like you can tell really, really, really quickly when somebody actually cares about a charitable cause or when they don't. It is like black and white. When somebody cares, there's energy, there's passion, there's commitment, there's dedication to the craft. There's fresh ideas, and you're not recycling stuff. I know people who have 60 CCB who have raised more than the biggest people on this platform on the
Yep.
platform without question.
Yep.
Like it's not even close. I'm like 15 C. I've seen 15 CCB people outraise 7,000 CCB people in over a month. It's not close. And so to that point is you'll spot a lot more when you pay attention and you study people than if you do it. Now, I will also tell you, do not discourage like let that discourage you from just giving anyway. There's a level of when you hear me say that and you hear Bennett say, "Oh, well, like, there's people coming and they're just trying to get something." Let them take it.
Yeah.
What's it going to do to you other than like increase who you are as if we're talking from the business perspective, your brand?
Yeah.
Because if you know what you're talking about and they listen and it gets back that like you were the person behind that, you're beneficial. It also, I will say this, it feels weird at times giving a lot of the altruistic advice going, "Oh, but it brings back good things."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, "Hey, be a good
Trust me, it's
person,
gonna
good
be
things come
good.
back." Right? And so to that though, I just say is the reality of it is just that. I'm not telling you to be a good person and do good things for people simply because 'cause it'll get you something.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that's the law of how people interact in this space. Um, and the more genuine you are and the more authentic you are, and the more that you also say no to things that you don't actually care about, the better it goes. So,
Yeah. Saying yes to everything is not always the greatest.
no.
Like, hey, it's an opportunity, but if it's not the right one, it
And if you don't
could
care
go
about it,
horribly wrong.
and if you don't care about it,
Yeah.
you don't care to problem solve in the same way that other people do.
Yep.
So let somebody else problem solve what they enjoy doing. So
Yeah, absolutely. And
that's a lot of that.
no, for sure. And you hit something earlier about consistency and how um, it was rare to find that and unique. And
Yes.
when you find that, try to keep at it, not only for yourself but also the people that are around. For you guys, you guys were producing like year round content for multiple weekly shows.
Yep.
It was a grind, man, and like if anything in this
Oh
space,
Lord.
consistency is the most important thing for
I
sustainability, right?
I will tell you this because I don't think people understand how hard a lot of this can be. I was putting in 80 hours a week from COVID till about the time I had my kid in 2022. Without question, because we had, let me see, it was 4 shows in the office every week,
Yep.
and I was in the office about 8, and I wouldn't leave till 9 or 10. That was 4 days a week.
Long day.
And the other day was in by 8, out by 5, maybe 6. Every day,
Yeah.
every week for 3 years, almost
Yeah.
4, right? So, don't think like it's very much one of those, the more time that you realize you've put in, the better you'll be, and don't be scared of the hard work that nobody sees. Because for those 3 years, like, I'm just kind of doing my thing, even to this day, it's really weird and shocking to me where I'll pipe up in part of a conversation. Somebody's like, "Whoa," like that little like, "Oh, somebody does know their stuff."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just did it for so long, it's second nature now. I'm not trying
Yeah.
to impress anybody, and so I think that's a secondary aspect that's very important to this career and
Yeah.
specifically gaming in general. is you have to get so good that it's second nature.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not to say that it's going to be that way all the time. That's not to say that you don't work hard and you haven't worked hard to get there. There's just a lot of the time that your expertise will pay you dividends way more than your hard work will, because you've built up the expertise. It doesn't happen overnight. And so when you're talking about content, when you're talking about
Yep.
making production, when you're talking about leading strategy and stuff, I think the easiest example and paradigm for this is you're not going to look at somebody who has 80 years experience, and when they give you a good idea, you're like, "Oh man, you thought really hard about that idea." It's like, no, like you've been doing it for 80 years. You
Yeah.
just know the answer because you've done it for 80
Yeah.
years. you know. So that's almost what I would say that all of the students really should be aspiring to is find the thing that you enjoy and get good at it by second nature, not by effort. Because effort only takes you so far.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean,
So
obviously effort's important, but,
yes,
you know,
absolutely. It
yeah,
just but there's diminishing returns when you have to work excessively hard for something over a long period of time. So
absolutely. We have our first question from chat. It comes from
yeah.
Alpha Chino, a Full Sail alum here. Many small creators like myself see other creators getting signed to talent agencies. I'm
Yep.
curious, is there a specific talent that you were looking for, or how does that process work?
Oh
And
boy.
and I feel like this is a big question because
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunity, and obviously I would love you to field that question, and I think we
Yeah.
can expand on it first or later.
Absolutely.
But
Let me start by kind of giving you how I ended up at Mythic after
yeah,
doing production. So had my kid with my now ex-wife in 2022. And at the time, my boss Kevin and I were having a bunch of conversations about work timelines and stuff. Again, I'm putting in at that point, I was still probably putting in about 60 hours a week as they were born because we just come off GCX in 2022, chaotic, wild time, especially with a like 9 month pregnant wife at the time because kiddo was born in July, so it was right off the heels of it. But um, wanted a little more time, and so I ended up working from home for the next couple months, and then about you know April, I think, is where it was. He and I talked, and COVID had really stopped being as crazy, and so people were starting to bring all their production teams back in the office, and we were only doing the content from the office and all that stuff. So it was, do you want to transition me into biz dev because there was less work for me to do on the production side, or do we want me to freelance with what I was already doing with YouTube strategy after learning all the stuff that I did to manage all of our content at the company? And I was already freelancing for a friend of mine doing Minecraft content, and he was breaking 1.2, 1.3 million views of video at the time. After being around like 700. So we really like did really, really well helping him consistency, building systems, so on and so forth. And so I ended up deciding because I wanted more time with the kid as they were growing up just to go freelance. At the time I had about 6,700 a month planned to come in. And over the next 4 months, that dipped down to 3,300 a month because people, for various reasons, industry slowing down, so on and so forth. And over that next 2 year span, was fully freelance, working as a full time content strategist and video editor on top of all the other stuff that I was doing, probably putting in about 80 hours a week again, just to make ends meet and be a solo freelance guy taking care of a wife, a kid, and the rest of the household on sole income. So not exactly the most glamorous life. A lot of stress, and transparently to the point, for everybody listening, when you go freelance, especially in a space like that, please be careful. If you have responsibilities, they
yeah,
will be responsibilities. And a lot of that stress ended up putting me and now the ex-wife in a very difficult spot financially and emotionally. So we ended up getting divorced at the very end of all of this. But did all of that. And by the way, we're still great friends, great time, just not right fit after all of the stress that happened.
yeah,
So that to say, did all that, and then kiddo was finally old enough and cognitive enough, let's say, for all the parents out there, you know what I'm talking about, to be able to go to the grandparents
yeah,
and go daycare. And so about that time was the time where I called Cody, who's the CSO, Chief Sales Officer over here at Mythic. He and I have known each other since I joined the industry, 2018, 2019 at GCX, where he was working Gamer Advantage and then
yeah,
Advanced GG. and said, "Hey, man, finally done being a full-time dad back at the house plus work. So you guys looking to hire at the time?" And so went through the interview process, had a good recommendation, and that's part of the reason I'm very important on the, hey, be good friends with people who are good people, because they will help you when you need it, as long as you're helping them in a good way and it's altruistic. He got me a spot in, and the spots that were open were campaign management and talent management. I decided, because after all of my time working with Rojop, doing all the talent management for the events and doing all the talent management for the marathon and stuff, that I'd be a better fit on that side than talking to brands all day.
Right.
And to the point of brands being chaotic and all these other things, good Lord, I pray for your CMs that they deal with the most bullshit ever.
Yeah.
And so ended up being on the talent side. And so now I work with 15 to 20 talent on the average roster, and do all of the deal flow management, campaign fulfillment, and at Mythic, we're basically full service, doing anything they need, whether it be merch, events, production, literally everything. The VTuber awards we built out of stuff. Anyway, so that is all to say how I got there and what we do. So in regards to what are we looking for, Mythic specifically happens to be tier 1, let's say. We are basically the biggest agency in gaming at this point, by watch hours and so a couple other metrics. And we have some of the biggest talent in gaming, I think I would say, bar none. So that being said, what are we looking for? We are traditionally looking for a creator of a certain size. And yes, that is a CCB number. No, we don't like it just as much as you do.
Yeah.
But we are a company and we are a business. Like, as a company and a business, you have to make money to keep everybody that you employ there and to make enough money for the talent that they're happy. So generally, your talent agencies are looking for a minimum threshold size. Certain agencies like Mythic have higher requirements, just because we have so much that we do for our talent on a full service basis, including the sales team and the CMs and the TMs, and then the event side and so on and so forth. Other agencies are smaller and more bespoke, that don't have as much of a lift for their talent, and they just do inbound, outbound deal flow. I don't think Phoenix Down is on that as low as that, and they're pretty much closer into the middle. But they're a great example of they're not tier 1. We're just talking about like a different stage of the size of creators, and then closer to that 100 to 350-ish range. Generally, Mythic's looking closer to 650 and above, mostly just because that's where the sponsorship deals that most companies are of the larger tier 1 companies that you'd say, the Ubers, etc., really try and play their hands. So you're always looking for, find out what their minimum metrics are, find out what they're looking for. You can almost always bypass minimum metrics if you have enough examples of what do you call this? My brain just like died in the middle of that sentence. Basically, just how much your click through and your conversions are on your normal sponsorship deals or other stuff that you've done that's not attached to an agency. So if you sell really, really high on your merch as a personal merch, provider, and you can show those numbers as well and be like, hey, I convert really, really well on sales across the board, you can generally get in at lower requirements.
Okay, cool.
But what I will tell you is this, and I've said this to other people. Number one is, you probably don't need a management agency. Period. If you are small enough that you are asking the question, you probably don't need one, because your deal flow will not be high enough that you cannot manage it yourself.
Right.
A lot of what you are dealing with when you get into talent management agencies is very, very similar to the side of YouTube where you're like, I need an editor. Is you don't have time to do the thing that makes you the money to then also make more money. It becomes a time limitation. Or if your objective is not to also make money, like if you don't care about making the money and you just want to do your thing, you don't need a talent agency. And so there's a lot of other questions that come involved with that are like, hey, like, what are you looking for? Well, the answer is, if you're big enough to get recognized by an agency wanting to sign you, you're probably big enough to get a talent agency of some variety.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're small enough that you're not getting deal flow already, to be blunt from the business education side of myself, do you really need one?
Yeah.
And so keep that in mind. Do not let that discourage you from aspiring to that. But the issue is more, if you're sitting here and you're going to go, hey, I only have 1 to 2 deals a month that are coming in, that come in my email or through DMs or other various services. why are you going to let an agency take 20% of the cut?
Right.
Right. So like most agencies are 15 to 20%, if not up to 25%. 25% I would argue is predatory, but that's just me. Unless there's a lot of associated benefits like you would in like a business like tier card, like we're not talking about Amex, right?
Right.
Amex's annual fee is ridiculous, but they have so many travel services that if you're traveling enough, it's worth it. Think about it like that. And so think about that as you're looking for an agency. What do they provide? Are they bespoke? Or do you want more communication? Do you want less communication? Do you want deals only? Do you have projects that you have outside of your content that needs help that they can help with? There's a lot of factors that go into all of that that mean you need to figure out A, the right agency for you, and B, are you at the stage that you need an agency? Not every major YouTuber has an agency because they only do enough deals every month that they do it themselves. Right? Like, and if you get big enough, you just make your own agency inside your team and you hire a couple friends that you work for in the industry that already do contract management and other things like that, and you're good to go. So it really depends on what your goals are, how much your income is, and all those other things.
Yeah.
Where you live, realistically, if you really think about it, like what are the laws and taxes where you are? That like,
Right.
do you have to have a LLC or can you run through it yourself? Do you need to do percentages? Blah 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 blah. So
Yeah,
that is a very long-winded answer
but it's very good.
Such a simple question.
Very good.
Not everybody needs it.
You actually answered another question. Someone asked it in chat, and then you answered the question in your response, which is perfect. As you continue talking about that, and I totally agree with you on that. There's like, I think the thought of like, oh, I want to grow, I want to move to these next steps, and like this having someone that's representing you, that, hey, that sounds great, these are all great things, but I like how you break that down and talk about, well, you will know when you need this, when you're underwater and you have those things.
I will add too, I think there's another very important aspect to that, which is, and this is something I talked to a mutual friend of ours at GCX with about, when they were like, hey, like, I'd really like, what do you guys do? I'd love to be signed by you guys. And I was like, bro, like, you don't need us. You already have the established relationships with the companies that you want to work with exclusively, and they work with you exclusively. I'm not going to bring you any value as a company.
Yeah.
Not because I can't, but because you don't want me to do the thing that you're already doing. You don't want us to take over the deals that you're already managing. You're doing it by yourself, And so it was very much a question of you're at the point where you could do more, but to his point, he was like, I don't need the money. The guy makes six figures at a Fortune like 50 company. And he does content on the side for fun because he enjoys it. Like he doesn't need it. Like, it just slows down the process. The only thing that he'd really need help with is contracts. And it's like, bro, oh no, $20 a contract to have somebody else read it real quick and then you're good to go instead of 20%.
Right.
And so be very, very careful as you're working through all that, because sometimes you need it. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're in a stage where you want, if it is a convenience thing, by all means, you know what I mean? But you'll get to the point where you kind of realize that you need it. And the secondary piece to that is the other thing that made him not a great fit for us as a talent management agency is he already had the relationships. And this is what I'm saying to you now, person asking question. You getting the relationships yourself will be 3 times more beneficial than getting an agency to run the relationship for you if you don't already have the relationship. Again, business-wise, separate me from Mythic for 2 seconds, as a talent manager specifically. All of my work that I've gotten in the industry has been a result of me being good friends with people. Genuinely just good friends. Like I don't necessarily care where they work. Like one of our good friends, Nelstar. That man has been through 4 or 5 different game development companies at this point.
Yeah.
And I've been through every single one of them. And we just hang out every single time we see each other. We talk shop. He'll send me some stuff whenever he's at agency. If I have a creator that before I was doing this as a creator thing, he'd send me people who needed production services if they needed something. I still send and tag people in. I don't do production right now anymore just because it's not part of my time slot. I still have all the skills. If you have questions, feel free to ask. But I don't have time for that anymore. So I send it to my friend who used to work with me, and he was the second or third guy that we basically hired at Rare Drop stuff for production for the marathon. Because that man does incredible work. He's done work with T-Pain. He's done work with all these other like major companies. So I just slang it his way because I don't need it.
Right.
You know, like if anybody tags me going, "Hey, what do you think about so and so?" I send it to them. If anybody needs website work, I have people that I send to. So, think about the fact that if you build proper relationships organically, to the point earlier about just being good friends and good people, is you're going to get way more value out of that most of the time than you need signing an agency.
Yeah.
If it's I need relationships with people that I can't get in touch with, that's a different answer. That's a
Yeah.
different question. But it's not, the answer is not go get a talent agency.
Right.
So
Yeah. When you look at, so okay, you're
yeah,
scouting or people are coming in and applying, and you're looking at, are you looking at like CCV on one platform? Obviously, with all of the different avenues that most creators are you know creating in
yeah,
multi-streaming to YouTube and Twitch and
yeah,
TikTok and so, all of the things.
yeah.
How do you look at that? How do you cast a wide net? Like, are you more focused on, hey, we're gonna focus and narrow in on this one, just your Twitch stream? Like, what does that look like when you start
Ugh,
to get down into the metrics?
I, I hate this answer because it is not on us. The
Yeah,
question is, what do the brands look at?
true, very true. Hey, but that's a fair question.
I, I,
In your
I,
experience, what do
I
they look at then?
they they are behind the curve.
Yeah,
They are almost always exclusively looking at single platform max viewership.
yep,
And so there's a difference between that and package, right?
yep,
So our sales team's incredible, and they do a great job at making sure we're getting packaged stuff where it's like, hey, like if they want something on Twitch and they want something on YouTube, you can collaborate the both and into a solid deal instead of going, hey, here's a YouTube stream and a Twitch stream. Well, let's just do both so that you get the value for both, but also make sure that you get the actual VOD deliverable on top of it and blah 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 blah. I'm not going to
yeah.
give away a bunch of the sales team secrets, but in general, it's about, how do I say it this way? We're going to step aside from the talent manager side and put on
Yeah,
content strategist
different
ball hat real
hats.
quick again, right? Your influence realistically is only as big as your biggest platform.
Yeah,
Like the people that know people are because of their biggest thing, right? Nobody knows Messi because has a massive Instagram, right?
right.
It's not a thing, right? Even if you think about other creators, nobody knows Mr. Beast because he owns Feastables,
Yeah,
right? It's because he has a YouTube channel.
no,
Messi is because he is the greatest soccer player of all time. Yes, I'm stirring up some debate with that one for fun. Um, and so you have to think about it like that. And in today's age of content, you have to double down on what you're good at to be known for something so you can grow other things. Um, as much as it's annoying to not be in the 2010 to 2018 realm of YouTube where everybody cared about subscriber buttons and,
mm,
generalized, you followed the channel type of things. As much as we like the idea that you want to follow a specific person, and the answer is you do want to follow a specific person, but you want to follow a specific person because they do a specific thing. You have to realize that you have to have a specific thing.
yeah,
People, you can reach a threshold by which you become a cult of personality, but you have to get to that threshold first. And in that same way as if you're making content, the brands are only going to care about the thing that you have the most eyeballs on that you're known for.
yeah,
Because let's say you have a YouTube channel that's on topic X, and they're a brand that likes topic X, and your TikTok is completely different. They are not going to care
yeah.
about your TikTok then, right? Because it's
Right.
not what they care about, what their objective is, what their marketing beats are, what target demographic they're trying to meet. So it's all really an answer on brands, and it's really an answer on what is inadvertently, and I hate saying it this way, but it's what culture prefers at the moment. I don't remember if you know when the CEO of Instagram put out a whole, good lord, what was it? It was like a 5-page slide document of like, hey guys, this is why we don't prioritize image and carousel anymore.
Yeah.
It's because the data says nobody cares.
Yep.
Like you can contextually want the nostalgia from that thing, but people
Sure.
don't watch it.
Yeah.
They don't click through it. They don't swipe. They don't engage with it. The stuff that people engages with is short form video.
Yep.
And so to that point is, I think, unfortunately, a lot of us, especially on the talent side and the content strategist side, have to be pretty agnostic to the feeling that you have when you're building a thing. Hiller Smith, who's one of the former editors for Logan Paul and Mr. Beast, has a phrase called kill your darlings. And it is the idea that no matter how much you love the thing, if the thing doesn't serve the end goal, you have to put the thing away.
Yeah.
And I think that's just very, very true across the space in general, is too many people are attached to the nostalgia of the thing, not the actual reality of it. And so that's why I think when people ask the question of like, oh, like, do people care about multiple platforms? It's this weird nostalgic idea of, oh, do I get to count all of my numbers?
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to which numbers do they care about?
Yeah.
Because who cares about the numbers? Like, you could have 600,000 on Facebook right now, but if the brand isn't on Facebook, who cares?
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to discourage the question. I'm simply saying is a lot of people need to understand to ask the right questions in a lot of these spaces.
Yeah.
And to pull from Alex Ramosi a little bit, you have to realize that the thing that you want means you generally have to think 10 times bigger than what you actually have, because otherwise you can't get to the next level. To make one piece of content, you have you. If you want to make one piece of content a week, you really only need you.
Yep.
If you want to make 100 pieces of content a week, you probably need to think a little bit bigger than just you. So if you want it, there's levels to this.
Yeah.
And so as you're asking these questions, think about the levels, because otherwise you don't actually get an answer that helps you, because you plateau yourself before you even get started.
Yeah.
So that was really deep, and I went really
I love it.
far on that.
That's incredible. And I think that's important, because I think there's so many creators out there that are trying to package them as this whole deal, and this is it. And understanding what the brand that you're pitching to wants is super important, because they could not, maybe they don't care about any of this except for this one thing. And if you hit this one thing, then heck yeah, push that
I cannot tell you how many times we have as a talent manager, you're like, hey, like, this creator loves X game, and we have heard back, oh, they're only doing VTubers.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You're like, we're talking about like, X amount of viewership that is like ridiculous for that category, and the brand's like, nah, just don't want that kind of person for this beat. You're like, okay. And you just have to get over that fact. You're just like we tried.
It doesn't make sense, but okay.
So give that some thought too, because I think that's the other fun piece. Is like, no matter how hard you try, sometimes that's what I mean by luck.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right there is very, very specifically too. Is like, you can be like, oh man, I am the perfect person for this. I think it's the best. Everybody around you can be like, that's perfect. And then some person with a pencil decided that you were just not the target thing for that thing that one day, and so you miss out. And there is nothing you can do about that. So I think to cap all of that off in a very, very large nice button, I think I want to just remind people that you cannot, to pull from Tony Robbins and a couple other legendary speakers, you cannot attempt to make your goal the outcome. You can't. There's too many variables. There's too many things that you cannot control. There's too many pieces that are entirely laid out separate from you. If you remember Brendan Lee Mulligan's famous little speech about the roads during Dimension 20, where it's like, oh, y'all worried about which direction you're taking, left, right, doesn't matter, because you guys aren't the ones who built the roads. I'm paraphrasing. All you can really care about is what your day-to-day process is, and what the process to getting to that goal looks like. Now, and that's the point that I made earlier about like asking the right questions, is you have to pick of those things, so you have some responsibility. But at the same time, it's not about picking the right decision individually. It's about being consistent, to the point that I made at the beginning.
Yeah.
And about consistency in the pursuit of the thing that you're doing, because otherwise you can't control it, bro. Like, I am the luckiest person in the world, like, when it comes to being in the industry. To the point that we made earlier, it's like, I showed up accidentally at one of my favorite games with one of my favorite creators and asked a really silly question that was an offhanded comment.
Yep.
And a decade later,
a
decade later, I'm working. Not quite a decade. I was 28. 2028.
Yeah,
I'm getting old. But I'm doing the thing that I love with the people that I like have a great time with. Two of my coworkers I've known since I joined the space, because they both work here. We're all good friends. We get to laugh around for a bunch of the day, working in Discord together, working from home, getting to take care of my kid whenever I want, and all these things.
because I asked the silly question to
So when you
somebody who
say
I'd known for a little bit.
when you say that, ask the question, like don't
Yes.
be afraid to ask the
Yes.
question. The worst
There is
outcome is
no
no,
stupid
right?
there is no stupid question,
Yeah.
and so enjoy the serendipity
Yeah.
of it all, because otherwise you miss some of the journey too. Then you're stressing about a bunch of those other things. We could get into the psychology of a lot of that.
Yep.
Unfortunately for me, my mom has a degree in psych and philosophy and theology, and
Okay.
so I everything exists within that paradigm for me.
Right.
So I'm trying not to get too philosophical on all of y'all about your career advice, but enjoy the serendipity.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not going to get it right the first time either, ever. Because if you did, you'd be a prodigy, and if you are a prodigy, congratulations, great on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But something else that you're doing in your life is not right first time either. So just allow it to be the fun process of doing that. And the reason I say the serendipity is to the point about asking the silly question. That's all I really have done my entire career, is ask the silly question, whether it be of somebody else or myself,
Yeah.
and go, well, I guess if I'm going to do the thing that I just thought of, I might have to get good at the thing. So let me just go put some work in and get good at the thing. Communication skills are not by accident. Technical skill in broadcast is not by accident. Content strategy is not by accident. A lot of these things are, you ask a question, you go, well, I kind of have to do that now.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
And if you don't know it, now I got to learn it, right? Like,
right?
I'm
like
committed.
When you started streaming, you didn't just sit there and go, oh man, I'm going to be like, I am Tim the Tatman day one.
Yeah, right.
Right. Like, you don't have half the equipment, you don't have half the hours. And so it's just like, okay, cool. How do I make a scene?
Yep.
Cool.
Each day you
How do I
learn
make that
something
scene
new,
move?
right? Like,
right. Exactly. And so let that be the guiding North Star for a lot of you as you come through the education system.
Yeah.
And then the final piece, I'll say that because I know we're coming up here on an hour.
We are coming to the end, so
pretty close. The biggest thing I will say too probably is almost more important, and it's that your skill set will always match your desire to get good at it. So don't feel bad about chasing the thing that you enjoy the most.
Yeah.
And the secondary piece is you're going to learn way more on the job doing the thing than you do in school. Your school sets you up in terms of thinking. It sets you up in terms of a lot of the let's say the macro of these industries and these pieces and what's going on and how things are generally done, because your instructors are generally people who have done them before. But you're going to learn way more about the thing that you're going to do the moment you step into your first workforce place and they go, hey guys, this is how we do it here.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to disregard everything you've been taught for the last 2 to 3 years outside of the general principles, because it's going to be like, oh, we don't use X tool here.
Yeah.
Right. So let that also be part of the process. Is I worked with my uncle in real estate during college. I did the pizza delivery. I did some graphic design and marketing stuff for a donut shop. If you ever heard of Duck Donuts, you know what I'm talking about. Great store, little franchise that I worked with. But all those things like gave me way more skill and information about how the real world did the thing than my business 302 class, right?
Yeah.
The most important 2 classes that I had in my entire school, like my 4 years in school, were, I believe it was 207, which was strategic communication, which was specifically high-level strategic communication from our professor. It wasn't the minutia of, oh, use these words and these marketing speak. It was, okay, cool, target audience, TAM.
Yeah.
What's the total available market size? What's this, amount of people here? Let's project this out 10 years to think about what it does here, that kind of thinking. And the second one was my senior capstone. And that's because we actually played Shark Tank. We did a full business plan. I still have it sitting in my desk for a rainy day when I want to build a business that is attached to something, because nobody's built it yet still. And the technology is finally out and around to do the thing that I wanted in the first place. We're not going to talk about that today.
Well, we'll have to
then
do
we
that
got the
on
business plan.
yeah, we'll have to do
Yeah.
that on another episode because
Yeah.
we're out of time, man. Like that's
Let me I'll finish the point,
yeah.
which is we actually Shark Tanked it. I finished the business plan and we sat in front of 6 business leaders from the area with $100 million actually on the line.
Wow.
And that was my introduction.
Yeah.
And so the more that you do as if you're doing it for real, and the more that you do that way, the way better you'll realize that your outcome in your career is going to be.
Yeah.
Because you're not training for something anymore. You're doing the thing.
You're doing
you just
the
learn
thing.
it on the job. So
Absolutely.
just do the thing. Ask the silly question. Have a great time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Paul, man, thank you so much for being here, being an amazing guest. Hopefully the chat had learned a ton from your perspective. Obviously, I want to give you a chance to tell them where they can find you, how to contact you, if they have other questions, all that jazz.
Well, you can find me on every single social at some variation of I Love Mondays. Almost all of them have the underscores because some Canadian holiday from 2012 grabbed it with without the underscores. But other than that, that's about really where it is. Instagram, Twitter. I'm on Threads once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
But primarily just those two. Otherwise, you'll catch me in industry doing things. I've been pretty quiet just because you put your head down and you work sometimes.
Yep.
And I help friends with projects. And if I retweet something because I'm involved with it, there you go. But outside of that, if you have questions, DMs are always open on both. If you find me on Discord, feel free. Yes, people use Threads, by the way. Threads has a larger active user base than Twitter does at this point, but we're not going to talk about that today. Welcome to Content Strategist Things.
There we go.
But seriously, any questions, DMs or open threads. And by threads, I do mean Twitter or Threads. I'm not calling it X.
Right.
And be safe.
Absolutely. Awesome, man. Well, thank you. Thank you again. It is chaos. And we'll be back with our next episode on February 12th with our first return guest, Matt Burns Potoff, which I'm very excited to catch up with him. So we will see you then. Have a fantastic rest of your evening, and we'll see you soon.